The media and Marxist politicians are creating a lose-lose situation for the American public, and they are leveraging race and the police to do it. Stick around for my thoughts. Hey guys, I'm Mike the Cop, and I'm just going to put this right out on Front Street from the very beginning of this video that mainstream media, or much of it, and any politicians, whether they are publicly identifying as Marxist and critical race theory subscribers, or whether they're doing it incognito, wolves in sheep's clothing, are doing it for their own gain, and they're manipulating us through this lens of race and policing, and I am sick and tired of it, as well as you should be. This video isn't going to be a deep dive into those particular ideologies, but I do want to expose them for what they are, and the basics are this, is that there is a ruling or oppressor class, and then there are the oppressed. And the more intersections of oppression you have, the more victimization you can claim. And the only solution is to remove, even by force if necessary, the ruling class. And right now in our culture, the ruling class, the oppressors, are white, male, cisgendered, heterosexual, conservative Christians. And if you're a cop and any one of those things, you are even worse. This ideology, it has always historically been a cancer and has ruined societies. It is infiltrating our education and our justice system. It is tearing people and societies down, and it is dangerous, and I want to expose it. I can't take, like I said, I'm not writing a whole book in this video, but I want to expose it with some current events and on the heels of current events so that you can see this for yourself. I want to expose this in 3 sections today. First is the fact that we are on the heels, literally I'm filming this the day after the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial and the death of George Floyd. So this is the first section that I want to talk about. I have a past video of my original take on that. For the most part, that has remained the same. I do believe with regard to the charges, and I kept up with the trial on legal insurrection. It had a daily briefing on that. I watched them every day. I also watched Tim Pool online, who is a YouTuber that I would recommend for solid, objective news source. I watched that. I try to really keep up and pay attention to the evidence that was being presented in the trial. I personally don't believe that there was proof beyond a reasonable doubt for the murder charge on manslaughter. I think there's a conversation to be had about that, but but that's neither here nor there. What my opinion on the charges are, the jury heard the evidence and made their decision. That's the justice system. I respected that as it's going through its process, which will continue. I'm sure there will be an appeal, especially since Maxine Muddying the Waters came out and basically thrashed the public nature of the trial. And that's a whole other problem, but that's exactly exposing what this is about. It's not about justice. It's about the perversion of justice. Only if the outcome is exactly what they want is it considered just. And by they, I mean the reference to the people in this video, which is going to be the leftist, the Marxist ideologists, and those that subscribe to critical race theory. That's the they. And if they don't have what they want, if they themselves, who are viewing themselves as the oppressed, do not take the place of the oppressors, there is no justice. And so that's why this has never been about justice. This whole situation has become all about race and policing as a leveraging tool for them to increase their power and position over the American people. Even the President of the United States came out yesterday after the verdict was announced, and he is quoted as saying that this was, the verdict in this case is, quote, much too rare. And at the same time, quote, not enough. This is asinine. It's a straight up falsehood. The President of the United States can step out in front of a camera and lie to everyone's face. And it's as if they believe that if they say it enough, it will become true. And that is a tactic of Marxism. You say the lie enough and people begin to believe it as true because they are too ignorant or too lazy to do the hard work of looking at facts and deducing what is true and what is false for themselves. Race was never a factor in the George Floyd incident. It wasn't when the police were called, it wasn't when the police responded, and it wasn't in the trial presenting the evidence, the facts of the case. It was only those who seek to have some other ulterior, subversive motive that continue to pound that drum. And we need to recognize it for what it is. It is a poisonous attempt to divide the American public as a means of achieving their end goals that are contrary to the principles that we have been founded on. Next, also yesterday, about 20 minutes after the verdict was read in Columbus, Ohio, police shot and killed a teenage girl. The headlines that were coming out, and I'll show you these examples. NPR said Columbus police shoot and kill black teenage girl. Another news outlet said Ohio shooting, Columbus police shoot dead black teenage girl. This is the motif. This is what they do. No facts are out. No body camera footage is released. Nothing is present except they insert the police and connect it to race, absolutely based on nothing but their ideology, but the narrative that they must push to accomplish the goal. Like, again, goes back to the goal of this ideology. And that is what they are trying to do. Facts be damned. This isn't about justice. It's really not about race. Race is just being leveraged in this to keep us divided and to accomplish their goals. Here's the reality. They don't show you this picture. Thank God that the body cam footage was released. It still didn't change a lot of people's minds. I'll talk about that in a second. But why don't the headlines say Columbus police officer saves 2 black lives? If you're going to mention the race at all, which is not necessary, what is the point of mentioning the race? Why mention it at all if there's no demonstrable evidence that race is a factor? Why mention this? This is exactly what I'm talking about, and this is what I want to expose. And a lot of you know this, but I want to just hit it, drive it home. I got to get this off my chest in this video because it's driving me absolutely insane. And the more clear information we have about what's going on out there, maybe the more people will recognize it and begin to speak up like I am doing in this video. Again, you would think that the body cam released would say, oh, hey, the police were called. They received this call about 4:35. They show up a few minutes later to 3100 block of Legion Lane. It's located north of Chatterton Road, if you're familiar with Columbus at all. And the call was reporting a female was trying to stab people. The officers responded. Ultimately, the officer is involved in a shooting, which is obviously then we take it from there. And again, the headlines don't reflect the actual facts because that doesn't matter. Facts is not what the news is interested in reporting. Facts are not what people like Maxine Waters and our very own president are interested in commenting on because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit the agenda. This isn't a conspiracy theory. I am just giving you facts. Still, yet, protesters showed up on scene with Black Lives Matter signs, megaphones, loudspeakers. They joined the crowd and they were saying, we don't get to celebrate nothing. This is Casey Tainer quoted, saying through a megaphone about the Chauvin verdict, in the end, you know what? You can't be black. What are you talking about? There was a black female with a knife trying to kill another black female. So what is the point? What do you mean you can't be black? To protect yourself from another black human with a knife that's trying to kill you? This makes no sense. Again, if this was about justice, everyone would have been cheering because the bad guy trying to kill a person that did not have another weapon. I don't know the whole argument of what transpired to start it all, but one human tried to stab another human being. And a police officer stopped it because they were called to stop it. They did their job. They protected another life from this is just How does race have anything to do with it? Where is the justice, right? They should be cheering this because someone was saved. A black life was saved. But no, that doesn't fit the agenda. Lastly, in this little rant piece of mine, there is a poem that went viral last week by a David Gray. And this poem, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I am going to put it on the screen. You can reference it. You can find it for yourself publicly on Facebook. At the time of this video, it has more than 15,000 shares. And he builds this whole framework of a day and mentions all sorts of names of black individuals who have lost their lives. Some of those include people like Mike Brown, right? Stephen Clark, Breonna Taylor. And the thing is that Stephen Clark wasn't just standing in a backyard. Mike Brown wasn't just walking through the neighborhood. Breonna Taylor wasn't just sleeping. These are all straight lies. They are perpetuated repeatedly until people who are, again, too lazy or too evil, to be honest, actually start to believe these things as truth. We're told repeatedly we need to remember their names. We need to say their names. Again, as though repeating the lies attaching to the name and race is a benefit. It's not. It's a distraction from the truth. And it makes race a factor where it doesn't exist, where it doesn't need to be. And it's terrible because all this does is delegitimize real victims. And where racism does occur, it means that we're too distracted with lies to actually combat racism where it really is existing. And that's the sad reality of where this kind of ideology leads us. What about, when it comes to say their names, what about Jaslyn Adams? 7-year-old black child killed just this week, Sunday afternoon, in a drive-by shooting at a McDonald's parking lot in the west side of Chicago. Who knows Jaslyn Adams' name? Why can't we say that name? Why is that name not on the list? How come it doesn't make David Gray's poem and say he won't go to a McDonald's drive-thru? Why is that the case? He'll say Rayshard Brooks can't go through a drive-thru, but Rayshard Brooks wasn't just sitting in a drive-thru. It was a lie. Why don't we know about Amanda Broderick? Why don't we know her name? You look it up and tell me. Why don't we all know the name? Why doesn't the name Gabriel DeWitt Wilson ring a bell with all of us immediately without having to look it up? Do you know his victims' names? Why not? So when it comes to these poems, how they're crafted, it's very skilled, it's very nuanced, and it's very intentional. It is a means of leveraging race and policing in order to further an agenda that is contrary to the truth and the values of people who are in pursuit of it. The reason you don't know any of those names and probably have to look them all up when I just said them to confirm who they are and what the situation was is because it would expose the inherent contradictions in their claims versus reality. Most of you, like me, believe that skin color is and should be irrelevant. Assuming racism simply based on nothing else other than the color of someone's skin involved in a situation, even when it involves the police, is the very embodiment of racism you're claiming to fight against. But again, exposing that, admitting that would be, oh, we're inherently contradictory. But that's not the goal. The goal isn't to end racism. The goal isn't to seek justice. The goal is to overthrow those that they view as the oppressor and celebrate their victimhood in the intersection of the oppressed. Don't believe me? Study critical race theory for yourself. What do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you appreciate this sentiment, if you appreciate the content that I'm putting out, like this video, comment on it, share it, hit the notifications wherever you see it. I appreciate you guys, and I hope that you go out and be as bold in proclaiming the truth and living it out as you can be.